Okay, I welcome you to the second inter-university debate. This is the second group. Previously, in the first group, we had Makerere University, Kabale University, Kampala University, and Bugema University. Yes, that was the first group where Makerere University and Kabale University made it to the next round during the first quarterfinals. So this is the second group, and this is the second debate. In the first debate, we had Chambo University, and today in the second debate, I'm going to be your moderator for today. My name is Mikayi. I'm an advocate, I'm a lecturer at Bachelor University, and I'm a tax consultant. I welcome you all to this debate. Today's topic is the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda. What are the bottlenecks? We are having this debate today, Thursday, 14th of October 2021. The debate is running from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and it is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance, that is CCG, and it is on Civic Space TV on YouTube. So today we have a panel of 4 debaters from Uganda Pentecostal University, Fort Portal. I'm seeing my panel is gender balanced, which makes me very excited. I'm so happy for this. So secondly, we have a panel of lawyers who are going to handle this topic today. Our first panelist, when I mention your name, just put your video on and wave to us. Our first panelist is Katushabe Naume, who is a student pursuing Bachelor of Laws from Uganda Pentecostal University. Put your video on and wave to us. The second panelist is Kasoke Chris, who is also pursuing Bachelor of Laws from Uganda Pentecostal University. Chris, please wave to. Okay, I'm hoping Chris is somewhere. We are also having Mikayi Maureen, who is also pursuing Bachelor of Laws from Uganda Pentecostal University. Okay, I can see Chris. I can see Maureen is there online. Maureen, you can wave to us. You can put your video on and wave to us. Yes, that is Maureen. And then last but not least, we have Baluku Sam, who is also pursuing Bachelor of Laws from Uganda Pentecostal University. Yes, Sam, you can put your video on and wave to us. Yes, thank you. So today we have 2 ladies on the panel and 2 gentlemen who are going to discuss this topic. This is a debate. Now, to introduce this topic, Uganda is a signatory to many international instruments that enshrine civic liberties. The most prominent being the international instrument, which is the ICCPR, and then also that is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Uganda also has these rights enshrined under Chapter 4 of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, as amended. Now, there has been attempts to curtail civic and political liberties in Uganda. We have seen this in several scenarios, even using the law, where we have seen the introduction of the Public Order Management Act of 2013. We have seen the NGO Act of 2016. We have seen the Computer Misuse Act of 2011, among other laws and other methods that curtail the civic and political liberties in Uganda. And there has been a big concern that this is going to cloud down and cloud back the gains that have been made towards an open society where there is full enjoyment of rights and liberties. This is why we are going to discuss this topic today with you, the panelists. And the topic is, like I mentioned earlier, the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda. What are the bottlenecks? This is going to be the structure of our discussion today. I would request the panelists to listen because this will be our guiding structure for today. So we are going to have opening statements from each panelist. The opening statement is going to feature a question from me. So I'm going to ask each of you to feature a question I'll ask you a question and you'll feature the answer in your opening statement. And each panelist is going to give that opening statement for 3 minutes. After that, we are going to have one general question that is going to be answered by all the panelists. And that question will be answered in 5 minutes each. After that, we shall have specific questions that will be directed to different panelists, from me to the different panelists. After that, then lastly, we shall have closing remarks from each panelist for 2 minutes each. So without wasting time, we are going to start with your opening statement that is going to feature a question from me to each panelist. And the first person to give us an opening statement is going to be Katushabe, Miss Katushabe Naume from Uganda Pentecostal University. Kindly give us your opening statement and feature this question. What do you understand by civic and political liberties? Thank you. Naume, you have the floor. I think we can't hear you, Naume. We can't hear you. Please unmute your mic. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for such an opportunity. Upon your question by what do I understand by the civic and political liberties in Uganda? Civic liberties refers to a state of being subject to only laws established for the good of a community. Such may include like freedom of speech, religious freedom, and freedom of expression. Political liberties also refers to a state of only being free, refers to a state of being free from oppression, from oppressive things or actions imposed by the authority. In short, political liberties can be seen as a free will towards something, in most cases, political issues. Like civil liberties and political liberties mainly involve human freedom, human rights that should be protected by the state. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Naume, for that opening statement, where she featured a question of what do you understand by civic and political liberties. Now, the next person who is going to give us an opening statement is a gentleman, and that is none other than Mr. Kasoke Chris. Please give us your opening statement, and you're going to feature one question as well. And the question is, what is the current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda? Chris, the floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon.
Kindly give us your opening statements in 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to give your opening statement.
Okay, I beg your pardon, moderator.
Okay.
I beg your pardon. Yes.
Mr. Chris, you're going to give us an opening statement for 3 minutes. And in your opening statement, you're going to feature this question. Kindly answer this question in your opening statement. What is the current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Okay. Hope you hear moderator. You are hearing moderator?
Yes, Chris, I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly well.
Okay. Thank you. You know, Uganda became a sovereign nation on stain of independence from the British in the 1962. For the first time, there was qualification of document in the form of the Constitution. So after the assignment of the Constitution, the 1995 Constitution, it's when Uganda got its liberty. It's accessed everything. So the current minister who is responsible for the civic and the political in Uganda, I can say this is Justice Katumba. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for that opening statement. The next person who is giving us an opening statement is Miss Mikayi Maureen. Miss Maureen, you're going to give us your opening statement in 3 minutes, and you will answer this question. Who are those responsible for a current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I think those who are responsible for the civic and political, they are the politicians, then the voters. In brief, I can say those people who are under the government. Is it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Last but not least, we're going to have an opening statement from Mr. Baluku Sam. Mr. Bakulu Sam is going to pass his opening statement in 3 minutes. And I'm going to pose the same question I posed earlier. What is the current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you so much. What we'd say, the current state of, we are looking at school, and we are seeing that Uganda, which has gotten opportunities presented by its youthful population and its resource well progress, remains a question over the country's shrinking democratic space. And this construction is indicated by the recent proposals of legislation that impinges on internationally recognized rights of freedom of assembly and expression, looking alone at the recent 2021 general elections. Given the fact that the current status quo or the current civic and political liberties are governed by different acts and legislations of the country. For example, the Public Order Management Act, which was drafted in 2013, both of which received significant attention from Uganda civic society, and then the citizens of this country, plus other stakeholders. So what I would say, currently Uganda is expressing a lot of uncoordinated democracies, incarcerations, political institutions, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sam, for opening statement, and thank you to all the panelists for your opening statement. So you have already featured in your opening statement, you've defined what civic and political liberties are. You've given us the state of civic and political liberties in Uganda and who the responsible people are for the current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda. We are now going into the actual issue in this debate, which is the general question, where each person is going to have 5 minutes to debate this question. And that question is, what are the bottlenecks to the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda? I'm going to repeat that question. What are the bottlenecks to the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda? Each panelist, you have 5 minutes to answer this question, which is the actual issue in this debate. I'm going to start right away with Katushabe. Naume, the floor is yours. Yes, Naume, are you with us?
Hope you're hearing me.
Yes, Naume, we can hear you very well. You have 5 minutes to answer that general.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to bring up the bottlenecks that have led us not to reach or not to enjoy the civil and political liberties in Uganda. I begin with the point of how elections are held in Uganda. Thereby, I pose a question. Are people's political choices free from forces that are external to the political sphere? Of course, as you all see, no, people are not free to People are not free from these forces. For instance, some politicians are sponsored by outside countries, and other people, like other politicians who during time for looking for votes, they come with money to bribe voters. Of course, the more money you give out to the citizens, I mean the voters, the more votes you get in most instances. That's showing that some people's rights who have that ability to lead others well have failed. That right has been infringed on because most people who have money have come up to overtake them due to the issue of money. Then I would even pose some other question. Do the people have the right to organize different political groups of their choice? And that's because people don't have that free choice or that right to organize different political groups, because the system of registration itself is very, very expensive, mostly in Uganda. This system has provided as elections in Uganda are provided for by the Constitution. However, its activities are over-criticized. Such criticization has brought intimidation among many people. Thus, many people fear to join political parties, of which it has led to the infringement on our civil and political liberties. And if we talk about a right or a freedom to religious, of course, Uganda as a country doesn't have a state religion, but any member of a religious group who comes out to criticize the government is intimidated and thrown out of their authoritative chairs. Of course, that is also an infringement on one's human rights. I would actually like to pose the third question. Does the government in its operation operate with openness and transparency? Of course, no. This has also failed, thus leading to the infringement on human rights. Thus, the enjoyment of civic and political liberties has been much infringed on. A number of government departments deny requests for information under the country's Access to Information Act. This act has become a block, especially for the journalists who would be bringing information back to the people. What's taking place up there, I mean, in the government or in other NGOs, most people are protected by this act. And lastly, I would like to bring out the issue of freedom to expression. Many people have not been allowed to bring out their issues publicly. Once you bring up an issue publicly, and that issue happens to be against the government or against big people in the government, you're all over criticized, of course, which has brought a lot of intimidation among the people. Thus people's rights have not come out to be observed because of that big fear. I think that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Naume, for that debate that you gave us on what are the bottlenecks, enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda. And that same general question going to be answered in 5 minutes by Mr. Kasoke. Chris, you have the floor, Chris.
Yes, thank you, moderator. Do you get me? Are you getting me, moderator?
Yes, Chris, I can clearly get you.
Thank you very much. That question is almost the way I've got it. The enjoyment of civic and the political liberties in Uganda. What are the bottlenecks? Indeed, you know, Uganda from the British in 1960. Are you getting me? For the first time, there was qualification of document. The Uganda signed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, the United Nations Charter of 1945. All of them came to support the human rights and the civic liberties in Uganda. So on that issue, Uganda have attracted many sovereign states, have attracted many international bodies to support the civic and political liberties in Uganda. They have almost given the opportunity in observing both human rights and the freedoms that are being estimated by the colonial agents. Also, I rely my question on the 1902 and the 1920 order in Kasoke, where saying it. Nowhere in these instruments would you find provision relating to human rights. The formal settlements in Uganda concerning human rights was in the 1962 independence constitution. During the colonial period, the registration and the instrument in place did provide for human rights, and therefore tendencies towards violation of the human rights and freedom were prevailed for. Example, such as Article 14 of the Uganda Agreement provide for forced labor, that is to maintenance of the roads. Also, I give my view on also on political rights to liberty. Rights to liberty. I give my audience to life to liberty. I see this is provided for the right to be at large freedom, and this is stipulated under Article 23, Clause 1 of the Constitution, is awarded in such a way that the right is inherent and that there must be justification for retrain on these rights. Also, it can be observed in the case of Muhammad versus Attorney General in July 1997, whereby the cover of the police patrol unit arrested the complainant for having committed an offense. State matters, he was consequently released and rearrested on the 19th of the January 1998 and was later rearrested because there was no case to answer. Here I mean, the Commission for Human Rights Wadega noted that their respondent was wrongly arrested, illegally detained, and his personal liberty has been abused. So after Uganda attaining its independence in 1962, all international bodies were saying to support human rights. I have seen the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, the UN Charter almost came in to support the human rights. Here ends my speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for that insight on what the bottlenecks are to enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda. The same question is posed to Ms. Mikayi Maureen to answer. You have 5 minutes and I'm timing. Guys, kindly use your videos and kindly use your time. You're using less time than you're supposed to, and that has on your speech. So make sure that you use your time well, and please use your videos. So, Ms. Maureen, what are the bottlenecks to the enjoyment of civic and political?
Thank you very much, Ms. Moderator, for this time that you have offered to me. I will first find the major key in this thing, in this motion, political right and the enjoyment. And they want to capture bottleneck in this, and we see that political right that individual right from infringement by government organization and private individual, and which ensure one's participate in civil and political right of the society and state without discrimination and discrimination. And the next bottleneck is the government. By this I mean
Maureen, your network is terrible. We can't hear you. You can be excused from using your video. Just remove the video and use the audio.
All right. I had defined the keywords in the motion, and I had said the bottleneck in this, I see it as the government. By this I mean, or by this I give my view by, you see, when it comes to elections or like politics in Uganda, we have seen several things happening, like overstaying on power, or when we saw when here when we talk about re-election, like for example, I'll give the reference in Feb, the reference of the President Museveni that marked the 30 years of him breaking the rule. But here I see people were complaining that the election was not free and fair, or the thing was corrupted, and this one has led like people not to express their freedom and their freedom and rights in democracy, because they say politics is all about the democracy, which by democracy is the rule of the people, the election or the voting of the people by the people. So we see that in Uganda we have not seen anything like democracy. Actually, in Uganda they are not exercising democracy, but what they are doing, they are undermining the powers of freedom and rights. And another thing, we can see the government has become known for regressive legislation that restricts internationally recognized rights of freedom of assembly and expression. For example, in Public Order Management Act 2013, the aim of distributing or discriminating has come in. Here we can see Dr. Kizza Besigye, how he was persecuted how he was persecuted in the way that he was not given right to to express himself in public. Like for example, by the time he wanted to come to Kasese, let me say, you saw how they would tear gas him, or the way they would beat people here and there, even when people have done nothing. And this showed that they were not persecuting him, instead they were disabled him and refracting, like leaving him there and not showing, like he should not show people that he can work, or showing people that he has the effort or he has the capacity to work for these people. And another thing, we have seen the religion wide we have seen the region wide culture, how it is in Uganda or in West Africa, has been reinforced by strong and society expectation. We see that in most cases, or in East Africa or in West Africa, culture is not done is not exercised the way it is supposed to be exercised. By this I mean, we see how government wants to rein or to remove the cultural things, and they want to do to input or enact their culture, of which this one first fights the freedom and right of the cultures in East Africa or in Africa or in Uganda. And this one will make us this one leads us not to do not to express our rights and freedom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maureen, for that submission. Last but not least, we are going to have Mr. Baluku Sam. who is going to answer that general question in 5 minutes.
Kindly,
And I'm going to repeat the
I
question.
beg your pardon. Yes.
The question is, what are the bottlenecks to the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you. So, of our constitution, Uganda, 1995, as amended, the tyranny, impunity. However, we see that throughout the years, Uganda has continued to. I'm sorry, I went. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you.
So, ever since Uganda got its independence, there has not been any. When we look at the just concluded, we're looking at the death of Muslim, the death of Muslim clerics. There's not been commission of inquiry set place. We look at the freedom of political prisoners, where even citizens are charged in military court martials. What does it mean? These are civilians, but are being charged under military courts of law, which is uncalled for. We look at the recent arrests and assaults of journalists. For example, one Rogers Asim of Freedom FM. We look at the rate at which ethnic and tribal religious sentiments are being promoted in Uganda. There are tribes that lack representation. There are tribes that have not been considered. There are tribes that they look at as tribes that influence politics. And in this sense, these tribes suffer at the expense of supporting their different ideologies, for example. We have no freedom of speech. As far as Uganda is concerned, when people try to bring up their opinions on media, we see how government doesn't cater for people who criticize it openly on media. Remember in 2019, when UCC called for registration of all bloggers and other social media influencers, sincerely, you see that there is a very big ditch into the employment of civil and political liberties in Uganda. Look at how we went for elections without electoral reforms. And then Ugandans are just lured into elections without being sensitized on what elections are. When we look at the African Charter for Democracy, Elections and Governance, it provides for equal representation, regardless of tribe, regardless of age, and regardless of ethnicity. But just of recent, we saw, yes, it finally came into existence after the amendment for people who are below 35 years to stand for LOC 5 and LOC 3 positions. And as we talk now, we have who have ably young people have a very big role to play in as far as. And then we look at elections full of violence. Although the Supreme Court ultimately confirmed the lawful garnering of the popular mandate, however, many citizens believe that the process was opaque and corrupt. Uganda has also positioned itself as a regional player in terms of peacekeeping. Yes, they host refugees and contribute to anti-terrorist partnerships. However, you find that the benefits of longevity end there. We look at how the government's preoccupation with its own preservation has negatively impacted civil liberties and closed the democratic space. How about the qualities of our members of parliament who are bribed on civil matters? You find that instead of government holding up a referendum in the recent the Tojikwata scenario, they bribe members of parliament who form a minority of the representation of over 44 million Ugandans. We look recently, for example, the outflow of offenses against the dignity of the people of Uganda. We look at the restriction of civil liberties, which have been in often compromised legal processes. You'll understand with me that opposition politician Kizza Besigye, who had nearly 50 cases brought against him, but later on it seems clear that the aim was not to prosecute him, but to destabilize and frustrate his efforts. You find that most people are incarcerated, they are jailed for years and years, for months and months, but later on government drops charges against them. Sincerely, there's a very deep hole, a very deep hole in as far as the employment of civil and political liberties are concerned. Most people are compromised in Uganda by being given positions. You see the position of the IGP, where most likely the IGP, the IGG, the IGG is supposed to be a lawmaker, is supposed to be someone who studied law, but they'll just appoint anyone because this person is influenced by government. People, highly educated and non-partisan officials who understand these human rights or advocates, work often out of fear for their livelihood. And most of them consider taking positions on sensitive political issues. As such, political expertise and progress in Uganda is a mere facade. You say it is uncertainly true that democracy is not just about the show of elections and government, but we are supposed to be looking at the quality of the political equality and self-determination that are delivered. But unfortunately in Uganda, you see strategic uses of state violence, from torture to unlawful detention and police brutality and litigation in Uganda. Look at the scarcity of opportunities. In terms of societal expectation, Uganda, like many, are linked to access opportunities. So are graduating day and night. And that's why you see in the recent elections, the youths were increasingly agitating for change. However, this is unlikely that this will translate into any concrete developments. Look at how cultural institutions are being used for political motives. And these days, cultural institutions have been made political and prone to government strategies. You look at how the kings are given, how Uganda influences, look at the king of Kasese, the king of Rwenzururu. He has been incarcerated for years. He has not been given his bail rights as the constitution provides. Look at how these people the royal guards have not been brought to the courts of law in a period of 5 years. These people have families. These people have wives at home. They have school-going children. But government has not done anything in as far as their liberty is concerned. And must we say that the employment of civil and political liberties is being employed in Uganda? On the cultural question, it is necessary to understand that in Uganda, official cultural institutions are largely political creations supporting the government and its agenda. Now, so if any cultural institution comes up and doesn't support government, you see it is frustrated. Where the president of Uganda has been seen saying they are going to crush people who oppose government. How about the people of Kasese who are suffering day and night? Their king has not been released up to date. And you find that government is looking at how best they can lure these people into supporting it and its agendas. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to look at how people are tortured to prove guilt. You find that people are first tortured so that they can admit evidence in court. And it is very, very difficult when arrests are made before investigations. Look at Honorable Tubu. Arrests are made before investigation.
Okay, Sam, kindly summarize. We shall get back to you on that point.
Have been thoroughly of guilt are seen as, in conclusion, therefore, governance should be by the rule of law and universal standards of social justice, whereby each individual must be seen in a dignified human manner, where there should be national unity and true equal opportunity for every Ugandan, so that each and every Ugandan can enjoy their liberties as provided by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam. You brought out a lot of points that we shall get back to you on with follow-up questions later on. We have seen the issues of death of Muslim clerics. We have seen the issues of using religious institutions for the gains of government. We have seen the issues of violence during elections. We shall get back to you on that. But I would like to get back to Naume. I would like to get back to Naume with a question, and that is, how important are civic and political liberties? Is Naume with us?
Yes, please hope I'm being heard.
Yes, Naume, we can hear you properly.
Okay, thank you. The civic and political liberties would be of very much important to the country's citizens if they were followed in the following ways. Like, for instance, if the rights of women were upheld, I think there would be equality between men and women, which would enable steady progress for the country, because women and men can do similar things in most cases, so that wouldn't be discrimination. That's saying the civic and political liberties of a very much important to our society. If the rule of law was observed as it should be, as in people should be treated equally in regard to their color, sex, ethnicity, and many others that people tend to separate us from, I think that would be development in all parts of the country, because the government has tended to promote some parts of the country more important or on a higher level than other parts. If some civic liberties like freedom of expression were respected, it can also be important to the citizens of a country, because if people come up and criticize and critically analyze what is taking place in the government departments, in most government organizations and NGOs, they bring up the loopholes that are there, like corruption or mistreatment. I think people would fear that exposure, that's respecting people's rights or doing what they're supposed to do or following what the law states. Of course, human rights are inviolable, so they should be respected, as it is stated in Article 38 of the Constitution, whereby civic rights and activities, these rights are mandated to every Ugandan to participate in peaceful affairs of the government and influence the policies of the government. I think that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Naume, for that insight on the importance of civic and political liberties in Uganda. I would like to get back to Kasoke, Chris. Earlier on, you gave us the current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda. I would like to get back to you and pose a question. Compare Uganda and other countries in terms of observance of civic and political liberties. How is Uganda faring? Is Chris with us? Chris, when you compare Uganda and other countries in terms of observance of civic and political liberties, how does Uganda fare against those countries? Chris, I see Chris is online, but you're mute. Chris is mute as he prepares.
Are you getting me now?
Yes, Chris, we can get you.
Thank you very much, moderator. Comparing Uganda and other countries in terms of observation of human rights, to a large extent, indeed, Uganda is taking it, because Uganda became a sovereign nation in attainment of independence from the British in 1962. And then, at least the other documents, other international bodies came into existence. Earlier, I talked on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of the 1948, the United Nations Charter of 1945. I come on the Constitution, mainly on the Constitution. The Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, as amended. You are seeing it, at least it is supporting human rights. For example, we have the rights to live, the right to liberty, the right to education, and indeed, Uganda is at least observing such a kind of condition that we are living in Uganda. So this is stipulated in Article 14. Another agreement was signed, the Uganda agreement in Uganda also. Article 14 grants the freedom of each individual in Uganda. Also, I give how the human rights in Uganda are being observed. So here, my speech is saying that indeed, to a large extent, the rights of individuals is being observed. I give examples: the right to bail. At least the right to bail is being granted in Uganda. That is stipulated in Article 23, Clause 6 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Grants the right for an individual to apply for the grant of a bail. The provision of the 1995 Constitution as a right to grant of a bail are much more expensive than those in the 1967 Constitution, where the rights was only contained as a provider to Article 10, Clause 2, Article 23, Clause 6 of the 1995 Constitution is more elaborated and incorporated to the provision of the Chief Magistrate Court Act. So simply implying that indeed Uganda is observing human rights, is observing the civics and political liberties in Uganda. Also give the right to I can give the right to privacy. This is also stipulated under Article 27, Clause 1 of the Constitution. This is primarily directed to the person, home, and the correspondence of the individual. A right essentially deals with traditional trespass by the way of search and entry. Also, I give the right to freedom of movement. That is stipulated under Article 29, Clause 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. This entails the right to live and return to Uganda, the right to free movement throughout any pay of a country, the right to trespass or travel document. This is also as observed in the case of Ivingiri case of 1966. Also, I give the right to dignity and physical integrity. Simply implying that Uganda is observing all of these rights as being documented in the 1995 Constitution. As I talk now, you are seeing the right to dignity and physical integrity. These are categorized of rights as essentially contained in Article 22, 24, and 25 of the Constitution, and they seek to secure many other the existence and contained being of the individual. Therefore, live without quality of a person. Also, I can give the right to education as being documented also in the Constitution, the right to livelihood in Uganda, at least also it is being observed. So that's why I'm trying to learn this question by saying that at least Uganda, as it got independence, as it is ruling itself. Indeed, it have to a large extent it have observed the civics and political liberties in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for that submission. I would like to move to Maureen, Miss Maureen Mikayi. Now, I would like to ask you if you agree with Chris on that submission. When I asked Chris to compare Uganda and other countries in terms of observance of civic rights and liberties, his submission is that Uganda is doing quite well. And if I captured his discussion well, he cited several articles of the Constitution and laws that Uganda is a signatory to. Is it about being signatories to different laws, and is it about having this on paper, or it's actually about actual observance? So I would like to seek more. I don't know. I can't see Maureen anymore. I don't know if she's still online. I would like, yeah, she is. I would like to bring you in. Do you agree with Chris that Uganda is observing civic and political liberties fairly well compared to other countries?
I don't agree with Chris, because when we come in terms of expression, Uganda is not doing it so well. We shall give an example of these guys who were arrested, or why was it last week? When these guys were expressing themselves, we see what happened to them. And we see there is this guy who talked about the bail of the President Museveni, and this guy didn't spend even a minute in the studio after talking about the bail, or after opposing the president's after opposing president's bail. So this shows that this civic and political enjoyment is not expressed in our country. Another thing, take another thing. If we talk about equality, if we come to our country, there is no equality. But when you go to other countries, you'll see there is at least equality in both women and men. Take an example of Kenya. You'll find that in Kenya, they are seeing a woman as a woman, and they're seeing a man as a man, not the way we see it here. So our country is not expressing it the way other countries are doing are expressing it. Like in other countries, there is freedom of expression, there is freedom of speech, there is freedom of everything. But in our country here, which is the opposite of other countries. So I disagree with Chris that our country is not expressing the civic and political liberties. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. I would like to bring in Sam. Sam, you earlier on talked about the different abuses of the civic and political liberties in this country. You cited so many examples. And I would like to make a follow-up question and ask you to compare Uganda from independence to date. How is Uganda faring in terms of observance of civic and political liberties?
Thank you so much. What I want to tell you, if we are to give in terms of percentage, then Uganda is at 35% in as far as civil and political liberties are concerned. The first one is expressed by corruption. Look at how leaders these days acquire offices through corruption. Look at the recent elections where people are bought, people given salt, Ugandans given salt and soap just to vote leaders. Look at how opposition politicians have suffered at the expense of the junta. They was conducting meetings at night, which was unusual. Look at how people, Ugandans have been, most especially supporters of the National Unity Platform, have been incarcerated, remanded, being brought to courts of law. So idea does not preserve the rule of law by of the constitution now and then, where the president each time and again wants to keep himself to power. Look at where the term limits were removed, and up now they've not been restored simply because selfish individuals want to keep themselves in power. We have a lot of challenges from convicted corrupt individuals. Each time and again, how the people were killed in massacre. Look at how military men are being assassinated. But nothing is being done. Liberties in Uganda. Remember one of Chagulanyi's diaspora team.
Okay. I think we got some submission already, though I think network interrupted. I would like to bring in Naume. Yes, sir. I would like to bring in Naume and pose a question. Earlier on, we looked at the different laws that have been brought in and they have curtailed the observance of the civic and political liberties. Now I pose a question. To what extent is the law being used to curtail civic liberties in Uganda?
I beg your pardon.
My question is, to what
Yes.
extent is the law being used to curtail civic liberties in Uganda?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, once again. And I begin by to a smaller extent, the law has been used to pertain the civic and political liberties. For instance, if you see the issue of bail, that is an inviolable right to a human being, and it's guaranteed by the law as it is seen in the Constitution of Uganda, and that is a hot issue currently. If it should be scrapped off from the Constitution, or if it should be maintained. But as for my view, a bail is a natural right that a person should be entitled to. My second point would be that the law guarantees for equality between all people, that the disabled, women, those in power, and refugees in Uganda, but it is not upheld because people are treated in different ways. Most of the disabled people have not been able to attain their rights. Still, no matter the cause for the equality between them, it has totally failed because most of them are still down. They've not been helped in any way. However much some NGOs have come up to help them by providing some projects to them by providing projects that have helped them to become economically stable. But I would say to a smaller extent, the law has helped on that. The law has failed to maintain the issue of freedom of expression, because especially during the times of elections, most leaders or politicians are denied a chance to attend some radio stations. Actually, they're even denied that opportunity to be there because the government or the people in power are in that fear that those politicians are against them. Thus, they're denied that opportunity to talk out their views, to show what they have for the country, to show what they're planning to improve on or what to do next. The law has also failed to be maintained, as we see that some non-government organizations that have come up to curb corruption in our country have been over-criticized. Yet, in actual sense, these NGOs would be having an opportunity or full rights to participate in our country. Let's see, for instance, this NGO that was being headed by Miriam Matembe, that is CEDU, or Citizen Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda. The offices of CEDU were actually closed recently because people tend to take it that it was partisan. And in actual sense, if you go deep into it, it was bringing out the ill issues or the real issues that would be brought out to show what is taking place in our country, or to show the loopholes that are in the governance of Uganda. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Naume. I would like to bring in Chris. Chris, I would like to pose the question to you. Do you think that because we have had a lot of blames on government, this government is doing this, government is doing that to curtail civic liberties and political liberties. Now, Chris, I would like to pose a question to you. Do you think that the citizens themselves should take responsibility for the current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda? Yes, Chris, do you think the citizens themselves should take responsibility for a current state of civic and political liberties in Uganda? Is there a part that the citizens themselves played in these rights being curtailed?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, the moderator. I don't know whether are you getting me? Moderator, are you hearing me?
Chris, we can get you. We can get you. Please go right ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Indeed, the citizens are observing the civics and the political liberties. That's why you are seeing, indeed, we have many Ugandans, at least they are following the rule of law. They are following the human rights, how they are being humiliated. We have the body of the executive, we have the board of the judiciary and the executive, how that at least they are working hand in hand with the government. For example, also can give freedom from torture or degrading treatment or punishment, how punishment are being observed and the citizens are being seeing it as well. For example, this is seen under Article 24, evident in the marginal notes, which states that the provision is ensure respect for human dignity and protection from the inhuman. That's why I think in most cases, individuals are reporting cases of defilement, are reporting cases of domestic violence at home, are reporting to them towards the people responsible. I see how individuals are observing the right to dignity and physical integrity. It's being observed and seen by the individuals. I rely my view on the article. This is almost stipulated or seen under Article 22, 24, and 25 of the Constitution. They seek to secure, among others, the existence and continuing of being of individual. Therefore, they live out the quality of a person, the respect for dignity, and the value of the individual. Torture, corporal punishment, among others, the protection of physical harm being of the individual. The categories of the rights here include the right to life, punishment, and Article 24, and non-derogable rights, and Article 44, and freedom from slavery. At least I'm seeing we are seeing the courts of law, the judiciary, the armed forces, the policemen, how at least the individual, but at least they are observing the human rights in Uganda. Then I'm seeing the Article 22, Clause 1, the execution of the death penalties imposed by the courts of law, and also permits abortion on medical grounds. The two aspects of death penalties and abortion on medical grounds remains two of the most controversial aspects as far as the rights to life is concerned, with the death penalties not only being seen as violation of the rights to life, but also as being in violation of the freedom from inhumanity. Here, I mean, you are seeing how the judges are enacting their laws, how the judicial bodies are coming out to the final decision that are supporting humans, and they are both human beings that indeed they are supporting the government on the political and civics liberties in Uganda. I've seen we have the rights, how the individuals we are seeing the right from freedom of speech, the right of being voted for, and you getting people to vote you. At least how you're observing it in Uganda is being placed under durable consideration. I'm seeing the many, how the government at least are putting many projects to support human rights in Uganda and being implemented by the individuals, as we well know. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I would like to now bring in Maureen. Yeah, I would like to bring in Maureen, and I would like to pose the question to Maureen that I would like you to look at it from the point of the people who curtail down civic and political. Do you think that there is any justification in limiting civic and political liberties in Uganda?
I beg your pardon.
Yes, Maureen, the question is, do you think there is any justification for limiting civic liberties in Uganda?
I think there is no justification for limiting civic and political liberties in Uganda, because we are all Ugandans. We are supposed to have equal rights, and we are supposed to be treated in the same way. We are supposed to have equal services in Uganda. So I think everyone must enjoy the civic and political liberties in Uganda so that everything can flow very well. If it is fighting corruption, let's all of us rise and fight the corruption so that we can have a better Uganda, and our Uganda should sound as it is, the Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, the Uganda, the God-fearing country.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Let me bring in Sam and pose a question. Sam, to what extent is the law being used to limit the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you so much. I would say to a great extent, the law has been used to limit civil and political liberties in Uganda. A case in point, look at how many times the constitution has been amended. Number one, from the removal of term limits, where individuals want to rule for life. Number two, we look at the removal of the age limit, where the president wanted to extend his term of rule beyond the 75 age rule. You'll find that look at the current status quo, whereby the president is agitating for the removal of bail, and yet this is a constitutional right embodied by the 1995 Constitution. Extent being held beyond the 48-hour rule and are not brought to book or are not brought to courts of law, and yet they're supposed to appear before the courts of law. To a greater extent, the law is being, you'll find that the rule of law is being, is favoring a few individuals. You will find that there are people who are committing crimes, but they are not followed up. For example, in the just recent concluded NRM primaries, we know what Honorable Rukutana did. We remember that scenario. But where is he today? He's a very free man. So to me, I would say that the law has not been protected. The law has not been preserved in as far as protecting the civil and political liberties in Uganda. Look at how people are acquiring land. whereas government officials are forcibly evicting people of their land, nothing has been brought, nothing has been done about it. How about the protection of Ugandans in the diaspora? Look at a case in a point one Fred Lumbwe, where government is trying to limit his liberties of expression and freedom of expression. So ideally, you see that there are a lot of loopholes in as far as enforcing the law is concerned. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sam. We are moving to the close of our debate. So we would like to shift to a solution part now. What should be done? This is the question I'm posing, and the first person to answer this question is going to be Naume. What should be done to ensure the observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda? Naume, you have the floor. What should be done to ensure the observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda? And we are coming from the point earlier on. Let me just give a bit of a background. Earlier on, we agreed that these are in our laws, but they are not being observed. So what should be done now to ensure that there is observance of the civic and political liberties that are enshrined in our laws, that are enshrined in the international instruments that we are signatories to? What should we now do to ensure the observance?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, once again. I would encourage, or I would call upon both the citizens and the government and other NGOs to come up for frequent sensitization of the public about their laws. I mean, they should come up to enlighten to the unlearned citizens in different communities, to enlighten much about how one should live in a country, to tell everyone that every human being has inviolable rights that should be observed by everyone, including the government. For example, the issue of voting, everyone has a right to vote in his or her country. So there shouldn't come up these issues of intimidating citizens or voters, because some people come up with issues trying to contradict what is written in the laws, and they intimidate the voters with their own issues, thus intimidating them not to vote, which is one way of violating their rights. I would also like to pass on a solution that the government plus some others people in power should learn to respect the laws that are put for the betterment of our community. Because once these laws are followed, for example, the constitution, if it is followed, or if people live according to it, I think it's good to go. It would enable the civic and political liberties to be elaborated upon as it should be. As it is said that every individual has a right to association as it is provided in the laws, that is the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. People should associate with one another and assemble to talk about the issues that are in the government or the issues that are in their country, so that to know much about them and they bring up one solution. Another thing, equality should be embarked on. There shouldn't be segregation in regards to color, sex, because once such a thing is followed, I think everyone has to enjoy the civic and political liberties, thus making it possible for everyone to live peacefully in our communities. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Naume. I would like to come back to Chris. Chris, what do you think should be done to ensure observance of the civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you very much, moderator. Are you hearing me? Moderator.
Yes, Chris. Yes, I can hear
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you very much. So indeed, my emphasis is point one. I do wish at least let us come together, let's unite together in order to uplift our human rights. Let us observe the rule of law. Let us observe the law. Let us observe our constitution, because the constitution, many people they are not knowing their rights. For example, we have the right to personal liberty. We have the right to education, the life to have wealth, the life to move, the freedom of speech. We have those such kind of men. So I'm seriously calling upon the elders, people who know the laws. Let us teach the young ones that they should know their rights, that they should get to know what is good and what is bad in this Uganda. Also, I'm also calling upon the elders, the top officials, to avoid the issues of corruption. This one is going to limit in case the corruption is being avoided in Uganda, we're going to observe the positive and the negative. We're going to observe the positive effects of the human rights, at least that we are living in Uganda. I'm also putting more emphasis on the issue of the governments avoiding the issue of discriminating among both the human and both men and women should be avoided. This is the government serve people equally. Let the government observe that indeed this is right and this is bad to both individuals as we are coming up together. This also the government, they put out the binding laws that is governing us about our rights. Let us, the government supports we as younger children, most especially some of the young children who does not know their rights. People have others are youth, they never went to school. So I'm calling upon the leaders, people who know the law, let them teach the younger ones that they should know what is good and what's bad. In case that one is done, people are going to observe their rights. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Chris. Let me move to Maureen. Maureen, what do you think should be done to ensure observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you so much, Miss Moderator. For me, what I think that should be done to observe the liberties of the civic and the political in Uganda, I would suggest that every citizen in Uganda should obey the laws of the citizen, or must obey the federal, state, and local laws, so that we can come up with a good Uganda, so that we can enjoy the liberties of civic and the political enjoyment in Uganda. And I would suggest that Uganda should fight for corruption. You know, every day they always say they'll fight for corruption, even when corruption is in them. So I would pray that every person, every Ugandan should first fight the corruption in him or in her, so that we can fight corruption together. And I would suggest that every Ugandan should work hand in hand to ensure that we all celebrate or we all enjoy the democracy when it comes to time of voting. If it is time for voting, every Ugandan has a right to vote his or her person that they feel like those people can work for them. And we should fight these issues of coming up, like when a politician is looking for votes and first gives the people what, like we should fight bribe. When we fight bribe, that's when we shall enjoy our Uganda in civil and political sectors. And another thing, I would say that everyone should have like a right to say to a better health a better healthy. By this I mean, we see in most cases, these our politician or our government, when it comes to time for like healthy things, we have seen how politicians are given billion share in this. So I would pray that government should also fight all this in all sectors that we have in Uganda. And I would suggest that every citizen must register with the system, with the selective system, so that we can be having, or we can have a better Uganda. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen. Let me also pose the question to Sam. So Sam, what should be done to ensure the observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. I think Uganda as a country needs to inspire a dynamic atmosphere where young people in this sense can think freely, where can develop their own thoughts, where people can connect and discuss and act on local, national. Uganda as a country should be patronage administration and political liberties. Uganda should look at how best they can create genuine and democratic opportunities for participants by all Ugandans, especially men and the disabled. Uganda as a country should promote conflict resolution and peace settlement through national and international fora. We should look at cultivating honesty, trust, moral uprightness, and self-discipline in the management of national affairs in order to curb corruption and other evils. We also should look at how best we can promote and conserve Uganda's traditional and cultural heritage, and also work towards attainment of the African unity and prosperity. In this sense, we also create various avenues whereby we can cooperate with all people in the world. That's what I would call peaceful coexistence, in one way to promote much welfare and human survival. And then we should also look at this, we can attain state power through justly and constructive people of Uganda. In this sense, all persons and their problem, and most especially national unity and reconciliation. We foster, we look at economic and politicians. We also look at the issues of governance, where there is going to be equitable distribution of natural resources, dynamic mixed economy with a strong social conscience, and then guard Uganda's national independence plus the sovereignty of the people. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sam. Let me pose my last question to Naume. So the question is, what role can you as university students play to ensure observance of civic and political liberties in this country?
Thank you so much, moderator, once again. The following are the roles that one can play as a university student to enforce the civil and political liberties. These liberties should range from citizens, of course, and leaders to ensure that the rights are put in action. I think I would start with sensitization. Back in our villages where we come from, we can move around telling people what they're supposed to get from the government, what they're supposed to be getting, how it should be taken in. Okay, we should enshrine to them more about the law that guides Uganda. As another point, a university student can also join the non-government organizations that call for respect of human rights, so that we bring light to everyone out, or everyone in Uganda, what he or she is supposed to be enjoying in Uganda. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Naume, Chris, what role can you as university students play to ensure observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda? Yes, Chris, what role can you as university students play to ensure observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you very much. Hope you are hearing me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much. I, as an individual, what I can do is I can give out 2-3 points. One, that is violating in order to observe the human rights that uplift. I educate them what is the use of their rights, what should they do. I teach them what is bad and what is good. I tell them at least let us observe human being as an essential thing. Also, what I can do is I can come out with the support and I defend the rights for every individual. Then finally, what I can do is I can call upon the NGOs at least to support the human rights in Uganda. Call upon also the elders, individual who is in charge of this government, especially the top officials, also to avoid the issues of corruption. Necessarily, they should observe the big ideas, purposely to support the younger ones and limiting the use of rights that are being violated in Uganda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. The same question is to Maureen. So, Maureen, what role can you, university students, play in order to ensure observance of civic and political rights, political liberties in Uganda?
Thank you so much, Miss Moderator. I think a university student can become the voice to the voiceless. By this I mean we have to go in the society and preach about the evils or about the bad things that the civil and society and the civic and political liberties have not done, so that we can see what to do, what to come up with. And I think a campus student can also be an ambassador of human rights and freedom in the society or in the university by being one of the peaceful and by being someone who promotes equity and a person who promotes human rights and then freedom, then preaching about how one can enjoy or telling people about their rights. You know, we have students who don't know their rights and who don't know how or where to apply their rights. People just dump into things that they don't even know what or where to be applied. So as a university student, we can become the peer of others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maureen. Last but not least, let's hear from Mr. Baluku Sam. what role can the state play to ensure observance of civic and political liberties in Uganda?
Accountability.
Thank you so very much, Madam Model. I'll start by saying that it is within the midst of our decisions that our destiny is shaped, and that our dreams begin to end the moment we become silent about the things that matter. As a university student, I would look at self-realization first. What do we want? Yes, looking alone at the background of Uganda and seeing its future, where are we heading? First realize myself and what vision, and then or the country, Uganda's background has nothing. Number one, social media to influence, because Uganda's population is carried by almost the youth, who comprise of almost 80%, and most of them are on social media. I use my social media to preach the gospel of reconciliation, to preach the gospel against the bad governance, and as far as civil and political liberties are concerned. At my university, where I come from, we come up with associations that promote civic and political inspirations. As a university students, we are creative people. We can use music. I can use my talent to sing. We can use drama and we can use dance, because ideally the music industry is also another big deal in Uganda. So we can also participate as the university students. I am supposed to go back home and participate in the local elections at home, both parliamentary, these special interest group elections, so that our voices my voice as a university student can be heard. I think ideally that's all I can do as a university student, and as far as influencing society is concerned. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Baluku Sam. We have come to the end of our debate for today. So we are going to have closing statements by all our panelists. You each have 2 minutes to make your closing statements. We are going to start with Naume. Yes, Ms. Naume, you have the floor to give us your closing remarks.
Once again, I would like to call upon everyone, those outside and us here, that we should respect everyone in our community. We should embark on respecting the civic and political liberties in Uganda. For instance, the opposition members of the government should be more encouraged, other than punishing them or stopping them from doing what they're doing, because it's through them that the government will realize where the loopholes are. And I think if it's wise enough, it would use that very chance to cover up so that people's rights are respected. As I conclude, I think we should even encourage girl child education for the elderly, and even education for the unprivileged, because there are these people that in most cases whose rights are being infringed upon, and as the rule of those states that everyone should be treated equally. There is no one who's above the law. We are all equal in a country. So everyone's rights should be respected despite of anything that makes us different. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Naume. Let us have closing remarks from Mr. Kasoke Chris. Chris, the floor is yours to give us your closing remarks.
You are hearing me, moderator?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. I take this opportunity to welcome you. Thank you for what you have done. Thank you to put this path. Thank you. I take this opportunity to welcome some. I recognize you some. Naume, Maureen, let us be together. Let's get united. Let's see what's good. and what's bad. Let us observe the rule of law. Good chance we are both Ugandans, we are the tomorrow's generations. I call upon we students, at least let's have people equally. Let us observe. Let us at least call upon the individuals who are not knowing their rights. Let us teach them so that they should be able to know what's good. Let us come out with a good plan for our future. Thank you very much, moderator.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris, as well. Let us have closing remarks from Maureen.
Thank you, Miss Moderator, for this day that was prepared for us, and thanks for the time that you have offered to us. And we thank the organizing committee that came up with this motion or with this thing. We appreciate them. I will end up saying that let us work hand in hand so that we can fight corruption and we can let people enjoy the civic and the political liberties, because they are very many and they are for us all as Ugandans. And I will call upon all of us to promote the rights of the young, of the low people. I know people who are down, like let me categorize them, the poor. They are the people in most cases who are facing the challenges in civic and political liberties. So I pray that we promote the freedoms and the rights of these people who are down. And another thing, I will end up saying that as Ugandans, let us follow the laws that are enacted. We have the Constitution. There is the way the Constitution will lead us. And if you follow the Constitution, everything will be okay on your side. So I would pray that let us work hand in hand as Ugandans, as students, to fight for or to obey or to follow the laws so that we can have a better Uganda. And I will I will tell all the members that we are with them here that let us not keep this thing for us all, for only us. Let us go in the world, in the society. We should preach about this so that everyone can know his or her right and her limits. Thank you so much, moderator. I remain as Mikayi Maureen.
Yes, thank you, Maureen. Let us have closing remarks from Mr. Baluku, Sam. Yes, Sam, the floor is yours. You may proceed and give us your closing remarks. Sam, are you with us? We are waiting for your closing remarks.
Thank you so very much. In conclusion, we should look at ways on how best we can build a progressive, social, democratic Uganda that will be guided by the principles of servant leadership, equality, transparency, accountability, freedom, liberty, and social justice. And I believe, and I would encourage each and every Ugandan outside there that we should struggle and work to build on values of discipline, reliability, integrity, inclusiveness, fidelity, and service, so as to build relationships without being divisive, looking at each other beyond our tribes, looking at each other's color and beyond stereotypes. In my conclusion, I would say each and every Ugandan should look at building a free and united, prosperous and democratic Uganda, which empowers its citizens, a Uganda that adheres to the rule of law, a Uganda that ensures dignity and provides equal opportunities for all. Otherwise, I wish you happy deliberations. Thank you, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank our panelists from Uganda Pentecostal University for Porto. That is Ms. Katushabe Naume, Mr. Kasoke Grace, Ms. Mikayi Maureen, and Mr. Baluku Sam. I would like to thank you so much for the good deliberation today and the debate that we have had. I would like to thank Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV for bringing this debate. And our topic today was the enjoyment of civic and political liberties in Uganda. What are the bottlenecks? From me, Lake Gender Fancy, and from the entire team, we wish you all the best and thanks for watching.